Somewhere in the shadow of the world's highest mountains lies a story that belongs not to any map, but to silence. Imagine a landscape where the wind carries secrets untouched even by time. Snow-capped peaks guard invisible passes, hidden valleys vanish beneath veils of clouds, and somewhere, according to legends that span millennia, rests Shambhala, a realm so perfect that the very word utopia feels pale beside it. A place where every inhabitant lives in harmony, where disease, war, and ignorance have no home, and where wisdom is the common tongue. But Shambhala is not merely a Tibetan myth. It is an echo found in many cultures, a golden city, a lost paradise, a sacred center that rules not through political power but through a profound knowledge of the spiritual and cosmic laws. Some believe Shambhala to be physical, a hidden city somewhere in the remote reaches of Central Asia. Others say it exists in another dimension, accessible only to those who have reached a precise state of consciousness. And still, there are those who insist that Shambhala is above all an archetype, a spiritual map of what humanity can become. Throughout history, explorers, monks, mystics, and channelers have searched for its unseen gates. From the Kalachakra Tantra of Tibetan Buddhism, which describes its spiritual geography and sacred kings, to the journals of travelers like Nicholas Roerich, who claim to have witnessed signs of its existence during expeditions in the Himalayas, Shambhala remains a carefully guarded enigma. No satellite has recorded it, no compass has pointed to it clearly, and yet, countless people across the world claim to have felt its presence. This is not just a story about a place. It is about a mystery that connects science and spirituality, myth and geopolitics, philosophy and quantum physics. It is about planetary energy grids, like the so-called ley lines, which seem to form invisible networks linking sacred sites. It is about traditions that speak of a hidden government of enlightened beings, quietly watching over and guiding human evolution. And it is about those who, in deep states of meditation, claim to have received direct instructions from the masters of Shambhala, messages that speak of a future when Earth will once again resonate in harmony. But before asking, where is Shambhala? Perhaps we should ask, what is Shambhala? For if it is only geography, its mystery can be reduced to a map. But if it is a state of consciousness, then the journey to find it is not measured in miles, but in layers of awakening. In this video, we will explore not only the historical roots of Shambhala, but also the scientific hypotheses that seek to explain its legend, the prophecies of the Kalachakra Tantra, the accounts of modern channelings, and the practical lessons it offers to our world today. We will walk the blurred line between myth and reality, and perhaps by the end, we will realize that Shambhala has always been closer than we imagined. Are you ready to step through the invisible gates? Then follow me, and do not look with your eyes alone. If we are to understand Shambhala, we must first trace the footprints it has left in human history, footprints that are, at times, faint and elusive, like marks in drifting snow, and at others, strikingly precise, embedded in ancient scriptures and sacred traditions. The earliest known accounts of Shambhala come from Tibetan Buddhism, specifically from a body of teachings known as the Kalachakra Tantra. To the uninitiated, the Kalachakra is simply another branch of esoteric Buddhist doctrine, but to those who have studied it deeply, it is a map, not only of the cosmos, but of consciousness itself. And somewhere within its coded verses lies a description of a place that sounds remarkably like a hidden kingdom of enlightened beings. The Kalachakra Tantra describes Shambhala as a land of unparalleled beauty and harmony, ruled by a line of 25 kings, beginning with King Suchandra, sometimes called Sukandra, who is said to have received the Kalachakra teachings directly from the Buddha himself. This kingdom is portrayed as perfectly proportioned, with its capital city, Kalapa, built according to precise geometric and cosmological principles. Rivers flow with crystal clarity, the air is pure, and its people are free from the physical and moral decay that plague the outer world. In these descriptions, Shambhala is not a dreamlike abstraction. It is presented with tangible, almost architectural detail, as though it might be drawn on a map. In the Buddhist narrative, Shambhala is not merely an isolated paradise but the spiritual heart of the world, a sanctuary where the pure teachings of the Dharma are preserved in their uncorrupted form. It is prophesied that, in the future, when humanity sinks into chaos and ignorance, the 25th king of Shambhala, Rudra Chakran, or Rigden Drakpo in Tibetan, will lead an army of light to defeat the forces of darkness and restore harmony to the earth. This prophecy is not meant as a simple tale of war. It is often interpreted as an allegory for the triumph of wisdom and compassion over ignorance and greed. But Shambhala's roots may stretch beyond Buddhism. Some scholars suggest that its imagery is intertwined with earlier Hindu concepts, particularly those found in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, which describe sacred realms hidden from ordinary sight, places reserved for the righteous or for beings who have transcended the limitations of ordinary human existence. The Sanskrit name, Shambhala itself, can be translated as place of peace or source of happiness, hinting at an archetypal resonance that transcends any single culture. Outside of scripture, the idea of Shambhala began to weave itself into the broader tapestry of Central Asian folklore. Among the Mongols, for example, there were legends of a northern paradise known as Erdeni-Dzu, a hidden land of treasures and wisdom, guarded by supernatural forces. In Russia, 19th and early 20th century explorers returning from expeditions into the Himalayas and the Gobi Desert brought back tales from local lamas and nomads about a great underground or hidden city, a place that some equated with Shambhala, others with the legendary Agartha. The Western encounter with Shambhala gained momentum in the early 20th century through figures like Nicholas Roerich, the Russian painter, philosopher, and explorer, who undertook expeditions through Tibet, Mongolia, and the Altai Mountains between 1925 and 1928. Roerich recorded hearing stories from lamas about a blessed land where a high spiritual ruler oversaw the destiny of the world. He even claimed to have witnessed an extraordinary aerial phenomenon, a shining object moving across the sky, which his Tibetan companions told him was a sign from Shambhala. Whether this was a spiritual vision, a meteor, or something else entirely, Roerich's writings helped cement Shambhala's place in the Western esoteric imagination. Interestingly, the spread of Shambhala's legend into the West coincided with the rise of theosophy. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, wrote of hidden masters in the Himalayas who guided human evolution from remote sanctuaries, a concept that many later linked to Shambhala. While Blavatsky herself did not dwell extensively on the name Shambhala, her successors in the Theosophical movement, such as Alice Bailey, explicitly connected it to what they called the spiritual hierarchy, a council of enlightened beings overseeing planetary affairs. For them, Shambhala was both a place and an energy center, the focal point of divine will on Earth. These connections between Eastern tradition and Western occultism created a fertile ground for the merging of myth and mysticism. Shambhala became not only a destination on the physical plane but also a symbol in the Western mystery schools, a kind of ultimate spiritual headquarters where adepts of all traditions might find common purpose. It was during this time that the idea of Shambhala as part of a larger subterranean network, often referred to as Agartha, began to flourish. Writers like Ferdinand Ossendowski, in his book Beasts, Men and Gods, 1922, recounted tales of hidden cities linked by underground tunnels, where wise rulers waited for the right time to reveal themselves to humanity. Yet, for all these detailed descriptions, no verifiable physical location for Shambhala has ever been found. This paradox, that something can be described in such concrete terms and yet remain invisible, is one of the reasons the legend persists. It invites a deeper question. Could it be that the ancient texts were never meant to be read as purely geographical? Could the precise imagery, the rivers, the palaces, the mountain ranges, be a kind of symbolic architecture, a map of the inner worlds that mirrors the outer landscape? In many mystical traditions, Sacred geography is both literal and metaphorical. A mountain may be a physical peak and also a symbol of spiritual ascent. When we consider the earliest references to Shambhala, we see a pattern emerge: the blending of historical, cultural, and spiritual elements into something that refuses to be pinned down by any single interpretation. The Buddhist scriptures preserve it as a prophecy and a spiritual ideal. Central Asian folklore guards it as a mystery hidden in remote lands. Western esotericists reinterpret it as a center of planetary governance. Each of these perspectives adds a layer to the mosaic, and together they suggest that Shambhala's reality may be more complex, and perhaps more accessible, than we imagine. In exploring these first references, we are not just cataloging old stories. We are uncovering the foundation of a legend that has shaped spiritual quests for centuries. And as we will see, the further we follow these threads, from Tibetan monasteries to Russian expeditions, from Sanskrit hymns to theosophical treatises, the more we begin to sense that Shambhala is not a static myth frozen in the past, but a living mystery still unfolding in the present. In the heart of Tibetan Buddhist tradition, Shambhala is not merely a distant land or a romanticized paradise. It is the embodiment of an ideal world, where the Dharma is lived in its purest form and where every aspect of life reflects harmony with the universal law. Unlike myths that serve only as entertainment or moral allegories, Shambhala in Tibetan Buddhism is presented as both an actual realm and a guiding principle for spiritual practice. It is the perfect convergence of geography and enlightenment, a place where outer conditions and inner states are in absolute balance. The Kalachakra Tantra, the most prominent source for Shambhala's description in Tibetan Buddhism, portrays it as a realm ruled by an unbroken lineage of enlightened kings known as the Rigden. The first of these, King Suchandra, is said to have traveled to India during the lifetime of Shakyamuni Buddha, requesting teachings that could integrate spiritual practice with the responsibilities of ruling a kingdom. In response, the Buddha transmitted the Kalachakra Tantra, which Suchandra took back to Shambhala, establishing the kingdom as a sanctuary of both worldly and spiritual mastery. This fusion of governance and enlightenment is central to Shambhala's meaning. In the outer world, rulers are often corrupted by power, and societies are destabilized by greed and ignorance. In Shambhala, power is exercised as a form of service, and leadership is synonymous with wisdom. The people live in abundance, not because resources are hoarded or exploited, but because the collective consciousness operates in harmony with the laws of nature and the principles of compassion. It is a realm where the political and the spiritual are inseparable. The Buddhist prophecy surrounding Shambhala adds another layer of significance. It is said that when humanity reaches a state of moral and spiritual collapse, when materialism dominates to such a degree that compassion and wisdom are nearly extinguished, the 25th Rigden king, Rudra Chakran or Rigden Drakpo, will emerge from Shambhala. He will lead an army of light against the forces of darkness, not in a crude physical battle alone, but in a great confrontation between truth and deception, between the clarity of awakened mind and the shadows of delusion. This vision resonates with other global myths of a final conflict, or a great purification before a new golden age. In Tibetan practice, however, this prophecy is not meant to be interpreted solely as an external event. Teachers often remind practitioners that the forces of light and darkness also reside within the human mind. The return of Rudra Chakran is as much about the individual's capacity to awaken as it is about any collective destiny. Shambhala, in this sense, is both a literal refuge and a symbolic mirror for the awakened state itself. To reach it physically, one would need to overcome immense geographical and perhaps dimensional barriers. To reach it spiritually, one must overcome the internal mountains of ignorance, pride, attachment, and aversion. Within the framework of Tibetan Buddhism, Shambhala also serves as a source of energy and inspiration for the practice of the Kalachakra. The initiation into this tantra is considered one of the most complex and powerful in Buddhism, involving intricate visualizations, meditative techniques, and a deep understanding of time, cycles, and the nature of reality. The practitioner learns to align their own inner cycles with the cosmic rhythms, reflecting the harmony said to be inherent in Shambhala. This alignment is not merely theoretical. It is experienced as a transformation of perception, a shift into a more awakened mode of being. Interestingly, Shambhala is not described as a place anyone can simply visit. In the Buddhist view, entry into Shambhala requires not only physical readiness, but more importantly, karmic purity and spiritual maturity. This idea is not meant to discourage seekers, but to highlight that Shambhala exists on a frequency of reality that cannot be perceived through ordinary consciousness. Just as certain sounds are inaudible without the right tuning, Shambhala remains invisible without the refinement of mind and heart. This teaching subtly shifts the focus from searching for a hidden valley on earth to cultivating the qualities that would allow one to recognize and enter it if found. Monks and lamas often speak of Shambhala as the source of blessings that ripple outward into the world. Some describe it as a hidden mandala, a sacred blueprint that energetically supports the spread of the Dharma across the planet. In times of crisis, practitioners may visualize Shambhala and its rulers, drawing upon its stability and purity to fortify their own minds. This practice serves as a reminder that even if one never sets foot in the physical Shambhala, the essence of that realm can be accessed inwardly through devotion, meditation, and ethical living. Thus, in Tibetan Buddhism, Shambhala is a multi-layered reality. It is a prophesied kingdom that will intervene in a future age of decline. It is a living source of spiritual power that supports the Dharma here and now. And it is an inner state that each practitioner is invited to cultivate, a personal Shambhala that mirrors the cosmic one. In this sense, the question of whether Shambhala is real becomes less about maps and more about readiness. For the one who has prepared their mind, heart, and conduct, Shambhala is not hidden at all. It reveals itself as naturally as dawn breaks after the longest night. The question of Shambhala's location has fascinated seekers for centuries. On one hand, the Buddhist texts describe it with strikingly specific details, mentioning mountain ranges, rivers, and even the precise measurements of its capital city, Kalapa. On the other hand, the more one searches, the more elusive it becomes, as though its very nature resists being fixed to any single point on a map. Over the centuries, scholars, explorers, mystics, and even governments have proposed a range of theories about where Shambhala might be found, each reflecting the worldview and limitations of its time. The most traditional belief places Shambhala somewhere north of Tibet, beyond the great mountain ranges, in a remote and inaccessible part of Central Asia. The Kalachakra texts describe a valley surrounded by snow peaks so high they are impassable, with only one secret entrance, hidden and guarded by forces both natural and supernatural. This aligns with Tibetan oral traditions that speak of a gateway somewhere in the Himalayas, possibly in the region of present-day Bhutan, Nepal, or Tibet itself. Some accounts point further afield, suggesting northern India or the vast expanses of the Kunlun Mountains in western China. In the early 20th century, Nicholas Roerich, the Russian explorer and painter, led expeditions across Mongolia, the Altai Mountains, and into the Himalayas, gathering local testimonies about Shambhala's location. His Tibetan guides often spoke of a journey that could not be measured in miles alone, a path that required spiritual merit as much as physical endurance. Roerich recorded stories of travelers who, upon nearing the hidden valley, became disoriented by mists or strange lights, or who suddenly found themselves turned back without understanding why. These descriptions reinforce the idea that Shambhala is protected by forces that allow only the worthy to enter. The Gobi Desert has also been proposed as a possible location. In some Mongolian traditions, Shambhala is described as a hidden oasis or city buried beneath the sands, accessible through underground passages. This belief connects to the broader Central Asian legend of Agartha, a subterranean realm inhabited by advanced beings. In this view, Shambhala is not only remote but also concealed beneath the Earth's surface, part of an intricate network of underground cities linked by vast tunnels. Such a location would explain its continued invisibility despite advances in mapping and satellite imagery. Another intriguing hypothesis comes from researchers of Earth's energy grids. According to this theory, Shambhala lies at the intersection of powerful ley lines, invisible energy currents that crisscross the planet, connecting sacred sites such as Stonehenge, the Great Pyramids of Giza, and Machu Picchu. The Himalayas, in particular, are considered a major node in this global network. Proponents suggest that Shambhala's location is not arbitrary. It is precisely situated where the planet's electromagnetic fields are most potent, creating a natural shield and a unique energetic environment. This would not only make it difficult to approach physically, but could also account for reports of altered states of consciousness in those who have come close. In recent decades, a more interdimensional explanation has gained traction, especially among spiritual teachers and channelers. In this view, Shambhala exists in a higher vibrational frequency or parallel dimension that overlaps with our physical world, but is normally imperceptible to human senses. Entry into this realm would require a shift in consciousness rather than a purely physical journey. This theory aligns with the Buddhist teaching that one must have the right karmic conditions to see Shambhala. Just as certain animals can perceive frequencies of light or sound beyond human capacity, Shambhala might exist in a spectrum of reality that is usually beyond our reach. Some modern channelers claim to have been taken to Shambhala in visions or astral journeys. They describe a city of luminous architecture, where buildings are constructed from crystalline materials that seem alive with energy. The inhabitants are said to radiate a calm, expansive presence, communicating telepathically and working collectively to guide humanity's evolution. While such accounts cannot be verified by conventional means, they echo the ancient descriptions of Shambhala as both a physical and transcendent realm. There are also more symbolic interpretations of Shambhala's location. In these, the kingdom is seen as a state of inner realization, a place that can only be reached by turning inward. Tibetan lamas sometimes tell students that even if one were to find the physical valley described in the Kalachakra texts, without the corresponding state of mind, they would see nothing but empty mountains. This teaching blurs the line between geography and consciousness, suggesting that Shambhala may exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously: the physical, the energetic, and the spiritual. What all these hypotheses share is the understanding that Shambhala is protected, hidden not merely by distance or terrain, but by a deeper veil. Whether that veil is woven from snow and rock, from electromagnetic anomalies, or from the subtleties of perception, it serves the same purpose: to ensure that only those who are prepared, ethically, mentally, and spiritually, may enter. This protection may explain why, despite centuries of searching, Shambhala has never been found by those seeking it solely as a curiosity or conquest. Its location, if one insists on calling it that, may be less about coordinates and more about resonance. As we move forward, it becomes clear that the quest for Shambhala is as much about the seeker as it is about the destination. The mountains, deserts, and hidden valleys may or may not conceal its gates, but they certainly mirror the inner landscapes we must cross to approach it. The true map, perhaps, is written not on parchment, but in the transformation of consciousness itself. For centuries, the legend of Shambhala has been passed down through sacred texts, oral traditions, and mystical visions. But in recent decades, an unexpected angle has emerged: the possibility that some aspects of the myth may be grounded in geophysical realities. Scientists, researchers of Earth's energy systems, and independent investigators have begun to explore whether the descriptions of Shambhala's unique environment might correspond to measurable anomalies in the planet's electromagnetic field, geological formations, or even its gravitational patterns. This intersection between ancient wisdom and modern science adds another dimension to the question of Shambhala's existence. One of the most intriguing concepts linked to Shambhala is that of ley lines. First popularized in the early 20th century by Alfred Watkins, ley lines are theorized to be straight alignments connecting ancient sites, monuments, and natural landmarks. Some researchers believe these alignments are not accidental, but are part of a global network of energy channels that were recognized and utilized by ancient civilizations. While mainstream science has been cautious or dismissive of the ley line hypothesis, there is growing interest in how these alignments might correspond to measurable variations in Earth's magnetic and gravitational fields. When we overlay global maps of purported ley lines with known sites of spiritual significance, a striking pattern emerges. The Himalayan region, often cited as the heartland of Shambhala, appears as a major convergence point in several of these maps. This area is geologically unique. The collision of the Indian and Eurasian tectonic plates has created not only the world's highest mountains, but also deep-seated geothermal activity and unusual mineral compositions. Some geophysicists speculate that such conditions could produce localized electromagnetic anomalies, zones where compass readings are unreliable, GPS signals fluctuate, and human perception might even be subtly altered. There are documented locations around the world where the natural environment produces measurable effects on human consciousness. Studies in certain high-altitude or geomagnetically active regions have shown changes in brainwave patterns, shifts in mood, and enhanced meditative states. It is possible that the ancient descriptions of Shambhala's otherworldly atmosphere could have been inspired, at least in part, by such environmental influences. If Shambhala were located in a place with an unusually high concentration of these natural forces, it might help explain both the mystical experiences attributed to it and the protective veil that seems to surround it. Another scientific angle involves gravitational anomalies. The Himalayas, due to their immense mass and density, already produce measurable variations in Earth's gravitational field. Satellite-based gravity mapping has revealed subtle shifts in gravitational pull across different parts of the range. While these variations are small in absolute terms, they could contribute to unusual navigational effects, or even play a role in the kinds of visual and sensory distortions reported by travelers near rumored entrances to hidden valleys. Electromagnetic phenomena, too, have been noted in regions associated with Shambhala lore. There are accounts from explorers and locals of unexplained lights in the sky, strange glows on the mountainsides, and even the sensation of being subtly disoriented in certain areas. In scientific terms, such phenomena might be related to piezoelectric effects caused by tectonic stress, the same processes that can produce earthquake lights, or to ionization in the atmosphere under specific weather conditions. For a mystic or a pilgrim centuries ago, such occurrences would naturally be interpreted as signs of a sacred or protected land. It is important to acknowledge that while these scientific theories offer intriguing possibilities, they do not prove the existence of Shambhala as described in the Kalachakra Tantra. What they do provide is a reminder that our planet is far from uniform. There are places where the Earth's physical properties create environments that are rare, perhaps even unique. It is entirely plausible that such a location, especially in a time before modern measurement tools, would be experienced as a place set apart from the ordinary world. From a symbolic perspective, the scientific exploration of Shambhala's possible physical qualities mirrors the spiritual journey toward it. Just as the seeker must integrate reason and intuition, the study of Shambhala demands a willingness to hold both measurable data and mystical testimony in the same frame. The ley lines, the geomagnetic fields, the geological oddities, these may be part of the kingdom's outer defenses, a natural architecture that supports its deeper spiritual reality. In this way, the science does not diminish the myth. Instead, it enriches it, suggesting that the vision of Shambhala might be rooted in a profound understanding of the earth itself, an understanding that ancient cultures could have possessed and woven into their spiritual traditions. Whether one sees Shambhala as a city, a realm, or a state of consciousness, the possibility that it also occupies a rare and potent location in the physical world makes the legend all the more compelling. It hints that the wisdom of Shambhala may not only be about transcending the earth but about living in harmony with its most subtle and powerful forces. While explorers have searched the mountains and deserts for signs of Shambhala, others have looked for it through inner journeys, visions, and altered states of consciousness. In these accounts, the kingdom does not reveal itself to physical eyes, but to the subtle perception of the spirit. Some of the most enduring and controversial descriptions of Shambhala come not from travelers with maps and compasses, but from mystics and channelers who claim to have received messages directly from its inhabitants or rulers. The connection between Shambhala and modern channeling traditions can be traced back to the late 19th century with the Theosophical movement. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, the Russian-born founder of the Theosophical Society, often spoke of a brotherhood of enlightened beings dwelling in remote sanctuaries in the Himalayas. While she did not always use the name Shambhala, her accounts of these masters of wisdom living in hidden retreats bore a striking resemblance to the Tibetan concept. She described them as custodians of the most ancient spiritual knowledge, guiding humanity's evolution from behind the scenes, intervening only when necessary. For Blavatsky, their location was less important than their role. They were the living link between humanity and higher cosmic laws. In the early 20th century, Alice A. Bailey, a prominent theosophist-turned-author, expanded on these ideas and explicitly identified Shambhala as the planetary center of divine will. Through a process she described as telepathic dictation from a Tibetan master known as Geological, Bailey claimed to receive extensive teachings about the spiritual hierarchy governing Earth. In her writings, Shambhala was depicted as both a physical and etheric city, home to the highest council of enlightened beings, including the Lord of the World, a figure reminiscent of the Rigden kings in Tibetan prophecy. She described Shambhala as the source of the energy of purpose that shapes the destiny of nations and individuals alike. Bailey's portrayal of Shambhala resonated with and influenced many spiritual seekers, particularly in the West. It offered a bridge between the Buddhist vision of a hidden kingdom and the Western esoteric idea of a governing spiritual council. Her work suggested that while Shambhala might exist in a remote region of Central Asia, its true essence was on a higher vibrational plane. Access to it, therefore, required a refinement of consciousness, achievable through disciplined meditation, ethical living, and dedicated service to the greater good. Beyond theosophy, other mystics have reported encounters with Shambhala through visions, dreams, and altered states induced by deep meditation or trance. Some describe being transported to a radiant city where architecture glows with an inner light, streets are lined with flowering trees of colors unknown on Earth, and the air itself hums with a quiet harmony. In these visions, the inhabitants are often portrayed as tall, serene beings whose very presence transmits a sense of peace and clarity. Communication happens without words. Thoughts, images, and feelings flow directly between minds. Contemporary channelers sometimes claim to have received specific instructions or prophecies from Shambhala's masters. These messages often speak of an approaching shift in global consciousness, a transition toward a more unified and compassionate human society. Some emphasize personal transformation as the prerequisite for collective change, urging individuals to align with values of integrity, cooperation, and inner stillness. Others frame Shambhala's guidance in terms of planetary stewardship, calling humanity to care for the Earth as a sacred trust. Skeptics might dismiss such accounts as products of imagination or subconscious symbolism. Yet, for those who have experienced them, the encounters are as vivid and transformative as any physical journey. Many report lasting changes in their sense of purpose, heightened intuition, and a deepened commitment to spiritual practice. Whether these visions are literal meetings with beings in another dimension, symbolic messages from the higher self, or some combination of both, they seem to function in the same way, as catalysts for awakening. Interestingly, some of these channeled messages align with details found in the ancient Tibetan texts, despite originating from individuals with no prior knowledge of those sources. Descriptions of the city's structure, the role of its rulers, and its ultimate mission often mirror aspects of the Kalachakra prophecies. This convergence has led some researchers to speculate that there may be a shared field of knowledge, a kind of collective spiritual memory, that seekers across cultures and eras can access when they attune themselves deeply enough. The theme that runs through all these mystical encounters is that Shambhala chooses its visitors. No one can demand entry or force an audience with its inhabitants. The opening of its gates, whether literal or visionary, is said to occur only when the seeker has reached a certain inner alignment. This idea reinforces the notion that Shambhala exists simultaneously as a real place, a higher dimensional realm, and a state of consciousness. For those who believe in the reality of these channeled experiences, Shambhala is not simply hidden. It is protected by the very laws of consciousness itself. In the end, the accounts of channelers and mystics may never be verifiable in the way that explorers once hoped to prove Shambhala's existence. Yet they persist, weaving their way into the larger tapestry of the legend. They offer a reminder that the search for Shambhala may require not just maps and mountains, but also the courage to journey inward, into the uncharted territories of the mind and spirit. And in that inner landscape, perhaps, the shining city is closer than we think. In a time when the pace of life accelerates beyond our capacity to fully process it, when technology connects us instantly, yet leaves many feeling more isolated than ever, and when global crises seem to arrive in relentless waves, the legend of Shambhala takes on a renewed significance. It is not merely an ancient story preserved in dusty manuscripts or whispered in the monasteries of Tibet. It is a living archetype that challenges us to reimagine what is possible for humanity. The power of Shambhala lies not only in the mystery of its location, but in the clarity of the vision it offers. A society rooted in wisdom, compassion, and harmony. For many, Shambhala represents an alternative to the prevailing worldview dominated by competition, exploitation, and short-term gain. In a world where leadership often reflects the flaws of the systems that produce it, the Rigden kings of Shambhala stand as a counterimage. Leaders chosen for their spiritual maturity, whose authority flows from their service to the whole. In this way, Shambhala becomes a mirror for the kind of leadership the world so urgently needs. It invites us to consider that governance should be a sacred trust, not a means of personal advancement. The ecological harmony attributed to Shambhala is equally relevant today. Our planet faces unprecedented environmental challenges, from climate change to mass extinction, and the model of a society living in deep balance with the earth is no longer an abstract ideal. It is a necessity. The image of Shambhala's pristine rivers, fertile fields, and reverence for the land calls us to rethink our relationship with the natural world. It suggests that true progress is measured not by how much we can take from the earth, but by how well we can sustain and nurture it. Culturally, Shambhala offers a vision of unity without uniformity. In the outer world, differences of belief, ethnicity, and tradition often become fault lines of division. In Shambhala, diversity exists within the shared framework of universal principles. This resonates with the global reality of the 21st century, where interconnectedness is unavoidable, but true harmony remains elusive. The Shambhala model suggests that unity is possible when it is built on mutual respect, shared purpose, and a recognition of the deeper truths that transcend surface differences. On a personal level, the teachings of Shambhala provide a path for navigating the inner challenges of modern life. The emphasis on mental clarity, ethical conduct, and compassionate action offers tools for dealing with stress, confusion, and conflict. The idea that entry into Shambhala depends on one's inner state is a reminder that our external reality is deeply shaped by our internal world. In this sense, the kingdom becomes both a destination and a discipline, guiding the individual toward greater self-awareness and alignment with higher values. Even the more mystical aspects of Shambhala, its hidden nature, its protection by unseen forces, its occasional revelations through visions and dreams, have a place in today's world. They speak to the enduring human intuition that there is more to reality than meets the eye. In an age where materialism often defines what is considered real, the mystery of Shambhala keeps alive the possibility that there are dimensions of existence yet to be discovered, both in the cosmos and within the human spirit. In the realm of collective consciousness, Shambhala functions as a kind of spiritual blueprint. Movements for social justice, environmental protection, and global peace can find inspiration in its example. The story reminds us that the future is not fixed, and that a society based on compassion and wisdom is not a naive dream, but a conscious choice. The prophecy of the final battle led by the last Rigden king can be read not only as a cosmic event, but as a metaphor for the ongoing struggle between awareness and ignorance within each person and across the world. Perhaps the greatest relevance of Shambhala today lies in the way it bridges the gap between the ideal and the attainable. It does not present a flawless world as an unreachable fantasy. It presents it as the natural outcome of living in alignment with certain principles. This is a hopeful message in a time when cynicism often overshadows vision. It suggests that every act of kindness, every decision rooted in integrity, every effort to see beyond personal interest is, in a very real sense, a step toward Shambhala. The legend's endurance across centuries and cultures indicates that Shambhala is more than a product of its historical context. It is a living symbol that adapts to the needs of each generation. In our time, its call is clear: to awaken to a higher potential, to protect the earth, to lead with wisdom, and to live in harmony with one another. Whether we see it as a distant kingdom, a parallel realm, or an inner state, Shambhala offers a guiding star for those who seek a better world. The journey through the legend of Shambhala is not merely a tour through ancient texts, mystical landscapes, and esoteric theories. It is a mirror held up to our own time, our own values, and our own readiness to step into a different way of living. Whether one believes Shambhala to be a hidden valley in the Himalayas, an interdimensional city of light, or an archetype embedded in the human psyche, the essence of the story remains the same. It is a vision of what life can be when wisdom and compassion are the foundation of society. Throughout history, seekers have traveled to the far edges of the known world, risking their lives for even a glimpse of this fabled kingdom. They have crossed deserts, climbed mountains, and followed whispers in the wind only to discover that the gates of Shambhala are not opened by endurance alone. The traditions remind us again and again that entry requires something far rarer than physical strength. It demands a transformation of consciousness. Without the alignment of mind and heart, the path will remain invisible, no matter how many miles one travels. This truth carries a challenge for us in the modern world. We live in a time of vast information but often shallow understanding, of constant motion but little stillness. The discipline required to prepare for Shambhala is the same discipline required to live with integrity in any age. To see clearly, to act with compassion, and to remain steadfast in the face of distraction and fear. The kingdom's hidden gates may not swing open for those who seek it as a curiosity or prize, but they may appear to those who live in resonance with its values without even realizing it. There is also a quiet reassurance in the Shambhala story. The prophecy of the Rigden king speaks of a time when the forces of light will prevail over the forces of ignorance. This is not a guarantee that the world will magically transform, but a reminder that cycles of darkness are not permanent. Even in the most difficult times, there is a current of wisdom moving through the world, guiding and protecting those who are ready to listen. In this sense, Shambhala is not only a destination, but a promise that the work we do to cultivate awareness and compassion is never wasted. For those who feel a stirring when they hear the name Shambhala, perhaps that feeling itself is the beginning of the journey. It may be a memory from another time, a call from a place we have never been yet somehow know. It may be the soul's recognition of a truth it has always carried, that there is a way of living that honors life in all its forms, and that such a way is not only possible but inevitable when we choose it. In the end, Shambhala's greatest gift is not the hope of finding it, but the invitation to become it. Every act of kindness, every moment of clarity, every step taken in service of something greater than ourselves is a stone laid on the path to that hidden kingdom. And perhaps one day, without warning, we will realize that we have been walking through its gates all along. If you feel the call, let it guide you, not in haste but with steady purpose. Listen for the quiet wisdom beneath the noise of the world. Tend to the garden of your own mind and heart. Live as though the gates of Shambhala could open at any moment, For those who are ready, they already have.